Like with so many of our other in the hoop projects, the first step is to hoop your stabilizer and stitch the placement step. The next steps are going to be the applique elements for your video game design, shown right here. So grab your piece of vinyl for the cover and pin it, or you could even adhesive spray this step. I don't know how you feel about that. I always pin at 4 corners, making sure that I'm well outside of the stitch path of my design. The next step, stitch out just like any other applique element. There is a placement for your applique, and then you're going to place your fabric down and trim it around. This one has another little placement for the window of the game after you do this tack down, and then you'll do the elements like all the little buttons. Now, for many applique elements on In the Hoop designs, I like to use vinyl because I just think it looks cool. But since some elements of this project are going to have 3 layers, I'm going to go easy on the applique element for this one in particular, and I'm just going to use a piece of cotton fabric. Now you're going to trim around the tack down that you just stitched. And this one does have a little window for your little video game. If you have a fabric that has a teeny tiny print, like I do have one fabric somewhere that has the tiniest little print, and I sometimes use it and put like a character's face inside that little window because it's really cute, but you don't have to. You can just run the satin stitch and not run that element. So I'm going to just dig a little bit to get my window out. I'm trying to do this fast, so don't judge my cutting. I don't usually just chop and butcher like this. Then after you're done with this step, if you're using the window for a little character face or something like that, you can stitch the tack down for that piece of fabric now. If you're not using the window, or if you're going to put like a piece of vinyl there, like clear vinyl, whatever you're going to put there, the next step is going to be the tack down for that piece, and then it will do the satin for this video game and all of the buttons. So I'm going to go ahead and do the tack down for my little video game person, and then I'm just going to speed my video through all of the applique elements. The next step is going to be to take your hoop off of your machine. Here's the front. You're going to flip your hoop over. I don't think I said it at the beginning of this video. I use Easy Frames by Durkee. So you're going to take your backing piece. I'm using chalkboard or blackboard fabric from Joann, like I use on a lot of my projects, because it's thin-ish and flexible but still sturdy. And you're going to cover the whole design that you've got so far with this backing fabric, and you're going to pin it down. You could adhesive spray this if you wanted to. I like to pin, so I'm going to make sure to pin from the front so that I don't have sharp pointies by my machine, and I'll be right back. So here I am with my backing piece. This is the back of my hoop, and I've got it pinned from the front. That's why all you can see are the little silver parts. So I'm going to return my machine to the hoop and stitch the next step. One thing I like to do when I'm stitching out an in the hoop item, on the last step where you're going to see the back of the project, I pull out my thread like this, and then I run one stitch. pull up, get that bobbin thread out, and just give it a little pull, and then keep going. What that does is it eliminates that bird's nest at the bottom of your hoop, which wouldn't matter on like clothing or a monogram on a shirt or something like that, but it's great to do for in the hoop projects because when you look at your project from the back, you won't see that big bird's nest. So I do that, and then I'm going to stitch the rest of my bean stitch. All right, so now that bean stitch step is done. That's a tongue twister, bean stitch step. And here is what my project looks like from the front of the hoop. And here is what it looks like from the back. It looks almost done. So the last step is going to be getting those little pockets, and that is where these lines right here will come into play. The final step is going to be to place your pocket fabric. I believe it's 4 inches by 2.5 inches. You can consult your tutorial for that. You need to place it to cover the top and bottom lines like this, and then bring it just up to those 2 tick marks. See? Now, where it covers down here, all it needs to cover is this long line. Do you see what I mean? It is not important that it covers this part. I like to trim mine, as I'll show you after this step is done, because I don't like having to go through that extra layer for the snap. So just line it up as long as it covers this line, up to the ticks, and that it covers this one big long line, okay? Other than that, it doesn't matter. You can use pins for this part. When I pin from the front, like on a small element like this, it always shifts, and I tend to get my fabric all wonky during that final step. So for this step, wow, I'm using one hand. I can't do it. So for this particular step, I usually use tape. So if you'll hang on, I'm going to apply my tape and then I'll come back. Okay, you can see here that I have applied my tape. I like to try to stay out of the stitch path. I know it's going to stitch right there. I don't think it'll really hurt your machine to go through tape, but I don't like the stitches going through it, and then I have to pick the tape out of the stitches. So I just put 2 pieces long enough and sturdy enough to go on each side, and then I'm going to return my hoop to my machine and we're going to stitch the final step. Now I know you're really excited to see your finished project, but I do want to give you a word of advice. Before you unhoop your project, be sure to turn your camera. Be sure to remove your hoop and look at your project from the front and the back. Make sure that these pockets caught and that it didn't shift, or your fabric didn't, your vinyl didn't fold over, which happens to the best of us. It happens to me all the time. And if you just get done and you yank your project off the hoop and it's folded, you don't have any way to redo it except maybe by hand, which would really suck. So before you unhoop, just be sure to flip it over, make sure everything is nice and secure and how you want it, and then you can unhoop safely. Okay, so embarrassing admission, I just did 2 whole steps and thought that I was recording while I was saying them, and I wasn't. So here's what I did while I was not recording. Before I trimmed the whole project out, I trimmed right here along this pocket line. I did that because I like how it looks, and because I don't want to, personally, I don't want to install a snap through 3 layers, which it would have been had I left that white sticking out. So I trimmed right here, and then I trimmed around the entire project. A good rule of thumb is somewhere between 1/8 and 1/4 inch allowance around the edges. You definitely don't want to cut into your finishing stitches and risk unraveling and just ruining your whole project. And finally, I have installed the snaps on my project. Now check this out. On the longer tab, you want to install your snaps so that the cap, or the smooth shiny part, is up on top of the project. And on the other side, you want to install the snap so that the cap is on the underside, so that when you fold it over, it folds over and snaps. Just as a little addition to this video, if you're stitching the 4x4 version, the snaps both need to be cap side, that smooth side facing up, because it closes like this. So now you can unsnap it, open it up, put your little game in the pocket, and close it. And that is how you do this really cute project. Oh, and this one also comes with an eyelet version. It has a little tab kind of like this on the top right here. And if you made that version, the only difference is that you will install an eyelet now. That's it. So that's how you make this project. You can find it at designsbylittlebee.com. I'll see you in the next video, and I'll chat with you in the group. Bye.